The driver pulled the lever, the meter clicked on, and Anna stopped breathing. There was no fare on the little screen, no numbers counting cents. Instead, glowing green in the dark of the cab. 41 years, 2 months, 3 days. She laughed until she saw the driver's hands. They were shaking. He drove her home in total silence, refused the money, and said one sentence before pulling away. Don't get into cabs with strangers anymore, ever. By morning, she would learn that the license plate on that taxi belonged to a car crushed at a scrapyard 3 years ago, and within a week, her number would change from 41 years to 9 months. Anna Voss was 33, a children's book illustrator in Portland, the kind of woman who drew talking foxes for a living and apologized to furniture when she bumped into it. Married 6 years to Daniel, a claims adjuster at a mid-size insurance firm. No kids yet, a cat, a mortgage, a life so ordinary that Anna herself described it as a book with no plot. But ordinary people have cracks, and here's hers. 2 years earlier, Anna's father had died in a hospital in Boise. She hadn't visited him for the last 5 months of his life, not because they fought, but because there was always a deadline, always a next month, always time. There wasn't. Since then, Anna couldn't look at clocks. She wore a watch with a dead battery. She never once, in 6 years of marriage, asked Daniel, "What would you do if I died?" Some people fear death. Anna feared time. Remember that. It matters. Daniel had his own crack, and Anna would discover it much too late. Daniel never said no to anyone. A kind man made of wet paper, the type who'd lend money he didn't have and then hide the bank statements, not out of malice, out of terror of disappointing anyone. Anna loved him the way you love a warm coat. She'd stop checking whether there was anything underneath it, and there was. Underneath, there was a hole. But we're getting ahead of the story. The morning after the ride, Anna did what rational people do. She called the taxi company. They had no record of her ride. She'd hailed the cab on the street. Cash, no app, no receipt. She called the police. The officer was polite for 11 seconds. "A meter showed your lifespan? Ma'am, was the driver maybe promoting something?" So she did what irrational people do. She zoomed into the one photo she'd snapped of the meter. She'd taken it to show Daniel how weird her Tuesday was. Green digits, 41 years, 2 months, 3 days, and there, behind the screen, on the dashboard, half cropped by the frame, a small photo taped to the plastic. A young woman, maybe 22, laughing at someone off camera, a hospital bracelet on her wrist. Anna stared at that bracelet for a long time. You don't tape a stranger's photo to your dashboard. Who was she, and why did a cab that legally didn't exist carry her picture like a relic? Daniel's reaction was stranger than the photo. Anna expected a joke. Instead, he went pale, took her phone, deleted the photo so you don't obsess over it, and said he'd file the police report himself, that she should drop it, that the city is full of pranks. He said all this without once looking at her. And that night, for the first time in 6 years, Daniel locked his phone. Ask yourself the question Anna asked herself at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling. Why does a glitch make my husband afraid? 4 days later, he found her. She was leaving the grocery store, and there he was, the driver, no cab this time. A man in his 60s with a face like a closed door, standing by her car with his hands visible, the way people stand when they know they're frightening someone. "My name is Elias," he said. "What I showed you wasn't a prank, and I'm not going to hurt you. I came because your number changed, and in 22 years of watching numbers, I've never seen one change like that." He told it plainly, the way engineers tell things. For 22 years, Elias had been an actuary, then head actuary, at Meridian Life Group, one of the biggest health and life insurers in the Northwest. Meridian had built a prediction engine, medical records, prescription data, DNA tests from wellness startups, credit behavior, all of it bought legally from data brokers, fed into a model that could predict a client's remaining lifespan with obscene accuracy. Insurers don't guess, Anna. They know. Elias had left Meridian, or rather, been buried by it, 6 years ago. He'd kept access to a sliver of the data feed through an old testing account, and he'd built a little machine out of a taximeter, because a taxi is the last place where a stranger sits still behind you and listens. He picked up names the system flagged as anomalous. He warned them. Why not go to the police, the press? Anna asked. I did, Elias said. 8 years ago. 2 weeks later, my daughter died. And he went quiet, and Anna understood that the photo on his dashboard had a name, and the name was about to break her heart. Marta, 22, flagged by her father's own algorithm as a statistical anomaly. New oncology records in her file. Stage 4, prognosis 9 months. Marta, who ran marathons. Marta, who'd never had a biopsy. Elias found the fraud, a Meridian-owned hospice chain enrolling healthy people as terminal patients, billing federal insurance for comfort care worth hundreds of thousands per head. The most profitable patient, the internal memo said, is a healthy one. They survive longest on the books. He went to a journalist, and 3 days after Marta requested an independent biopsy, the one document that could expose everything, a delivery van ran a red light. Here's the part that rewired Anna's brain. Elias didn't blame the van. He blamed the algorithm. I built the thing that picks them, he said. It finds people whose deaths are worth more than their lives. My daughter was one line of my own code. His weakness was not grief, it was debt. He believed he owed the world one life for every name his machine had ever flagged. Anna was name number 7. Why me? She whispered. My file, what did it say? 6 days ago, Elias said. You were 41 years, 2 months. Tonight, you are 9 months. Somebody wrote a death into your medical records, Anna. New labs, new diagnosis, signed by a real oncologist. And you're standing here, healthy, which means one of 2 things, and you're going to hate both of them. Either the diagnosis was fake and she'd been sold to the hospice machine, or the diagnosis was real and someone else had been reading her test results before she ever saw them. Anna went home and opened her husband's desk for the first time in her marriage. She found a life insurance policy on her, taken out 7 months ago, $2 million, Daniel as beneficiary, a casino loyalty card. She didn't know Daniel gambled. A second phone, dead, but the charger still warm. And a receipt from a clinic she'd never heard of, dated 3 months back, the week Daniel had begged, to finally remove that mole on her shoulder. It's nothing, but let's be safe. He'd chosen the clinic. He'd driven her. He'd been so sweet about it she'd felt guilty for being annoyed. The tissue from that mole had gone to a lab. The lab on the receipt belonged to Meridian. Sit with what Anna felt in that moment, not fear. Fear came later. First came something worse, the rearranging of 6 years of marriage into evidence, the sudden affection, the insurance, the mole, the deleted photo, the locked phone. Every kindness, a transaction, every kiss, a signature. She confronted him that night. And Daniel, wet paper Daniel, did the one thing that looks exactly like guilt. He lied badly, then went silent, then packed a bag. You're in danger because of me, he said, crying, not denying anything, and every hour I stay in this house makes it worse. I found someone who can help. Don't call the police. Don't ask for a second biopsy. Anna, promise me, don't ask for one. She didn't promise. She did something worse. She let him leave, and she didn't say she loved him, because she wasn't sure anymore that she ever knew him. He died 4 hours later on the I-5. Brake failure. The police report used the word accident 3 times in 2 paragraphs. Anna read it standing up, and then she sat down on the kitchen floor, because she'd spent his last evening on Earth believing he was a murderer, and now she would spend the rest of hers wondering what he actually was. The answer arrived in the mail, in Daniel's handwriting, mailed the day he died. A letter and a flash drive. Cowards write letters, but sometimes the letter is the bravest thing a coward ever does, and you should hear what it said. Anna, I owe money. Not credit card money, casino money, the kind with men attached to it. A year ago, the men got bought by a company, and the company made me an offer. The debt dies if I give them access, not to money, to data, client files from my firm. And then, 3 months ago, they asked for one more thing. One healthy profile, young, insured, no chronic history. They said it was for a marketing study. I gave them yours because yours was the cleanest file I could reach, and I am the smallest man you will ever love. When you came home with that taxi story, I understood what healthy profile meant. I'd already pulled every thread I could. The drive has everything. The journalist's name is on it. The real one this time, not the one they killed Marta for trusting. I'm going to lead them away from you for a few days. Don't hate me at the funeral. Hate me after, when you're safe and old. Please be old, Anna. He'd known. On the I-5, with the brakes going soft under his foot, Daniel had already known how the letter would end, and Anna sat with the flash drive in her fist, and finally understood her husband's whole life. Not evil, just weak, until the one night he wasn't, and the one night he wasn't killed him. Now tell me, because the comments will argue about this for weeks, is a man who fixes his betrayal at the cost of his life still a traitor? The FBI took the drive, and the FBI said the sentence that always sounds like victory and is actually a door into hell. It's not enough for a warrant on the medical side. We need a live transaction. Anna volunteered. Elias begged her not to. You saw what a second opinion costs, he said. The moment you walk in as a patient, you become paperwork that must stop breathing eventually. Then you'd better make sure I keep breathing, Anna said. It's your machine. You owe me a ride to the end of it. She checked into Meridian Hospice with a file that said she was dying, and a wire that said she wasn't. For 6 days, she played terminal. And here's a detail that will freeze you. She was good at it, because she'd watched her father do it for real, from a distance, 5 months of it, the part she'd been too busy to attend. Every gesture she'd refused to witness, she now performed. On the 6th day, the director of admissions came to her room with the first infusion. Vitamins, he smiled, and said the sentence the federal agents in the van were praying for. You'll feel sleepy. Everyone does, the first time. That's how we know it's working. The lab would later identify the bag's contents. Not poison, nothing so crude, just a sedative at a dosage that, repeated daily, turns a healthy 33-year-old into a fading patient within a month, and a photograph of a fading patient into billing gold. They arrested him mid-sentence, still holding the needle. 6 states, 41 indictments, over 200 patients alive in the system who had no idea they'd been sold. The machine Anna's father and code had built to predict death had been turned into a machine that manufactured it. And it was stopped by the one thing no algorithm models: a weak man's final brave day and a stubborn woman who refused to be a number. Now the twist you've been waiting for, and it has 2 edges, so take them one at a time. Edge 1. After the raid, Anna did the full workup at an independent clinic. Every scan, every panel. The Meridian biopsy was fiction, no cancer, clean. The doctor smiled, started to say, perfectly healthy, and then frowned at the full body scan and asked for one more image. There was a tumor, real this time. Small, early, in her kidney, completely unrelated to the fake file. The kind that sits silent for 7-8 years and then stops being early. The kind no one looks for in a 33-year-old. They caught it because criminals had forced her into the deepest medical scan of her life. The people who marked her for death found her real death and handed it to her while it was still small enough to cut out. Anna went through surgery and 6 months of treatment and survived the cancer she never would have looked for because of the cancer that never existed. The scam was the biopsy. God moves in mysterious ways, but insurance fraud apparently moves faster. Edge 2. Months later, her hair short and growing back, Anna drove to Elias's apartment with the first printed copy of her new book, a children's book of all things, about a taxi that counts not money but time, and a driver who teaches passengers to spend it well. She found him labeling boxes, moving out, downsizing, he said. She asked the question she'd never dared. Elias, all those numbers you watched, did you ever run yourself? He didn't answer. He just reached into a drawer and set a little taxi meter on the table between them, and it glowed green, and it said, 6 months. Inoperable. Diagnosed 3 years ago, before Anna, before any of it. He'd known his own number every single day he was saving strangers. Why warn us? She whispered. Why not? And she stopped. Because the answer was obvious and unbearable. Why not spend your last years on a beach? Because of this, Elias said, and took down the dashboard photo of Marta from the wall. Every passenger I warn is a ride I never gave her. I can't raise my number, Anna, but I can raise yours. That's the only math I have left. Anna stayed for tea. She stayed for many teas, over 5 months and 3 weeks. And yes, she was counting. She'd learned to count. She'd finally stopped being afraid of clocks. At the end, she was the one holding his hand in a real hospice, an honest one, reading him her book out loud, The Fox and the Taxi and the Driver. And he died smiling at the page where the little fox learns the meter isn't running down, it's running up. Every day you're alive, the meter adds a day you used well. Anna's watch has a working battery now. She bought it the week after the funeral. Because here's what she finally understood, and what took her a fake death, a real tumor, a coward's brave letter, and an old man's last 6 months to learn. We are all sitting in that taxi. The meter is always running. It's just hidden from us, and we treat that hiding as mercy. It isn't. The people who love you are not guaranteed a tomorrow, and neither are you. Daniel mailed his courage one day before he ran out of road. Elias spent his last year like a man who could see the digits. Anna's father waited 5 months for a daughter who thought there was time. There is no time. There is only spending. Spend it while the meter's still ticking. And if you love someone, say it today, before somebody else has to read your letter. So tell me honestly, Daniel, the man who sold his wife's file and then died fixing it, does he deserve forgiveness? Or does one brave night not pay for 6 years of lies? And Elias, who built the machine that chose the victims, did saving 7 people balance the 200 he helped create? And the hardest question, if a stranger showed you your number right now, glowing green in the dark, would you want to know it, or would you look away like Anna looked away from clocks? Write your answer below. I read every comment, and the most honest ones shape the next story. Subscribe, because next week, a man at his own funeral hears the priest read his eulogy about sins he never committed, but his twin brother did, but his twin brother did, but his twin brother